Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated. You are something else, Ellis. You really are, dude. I just found out about you.
Oh, all right.
So this wacky world we live in.
Yeah.
There's so many.
We'll dive into it.
Entertainment choices.
Yeah, it's so crazy, man.
But you're kind of a big deal.
All right.
Ellis Ludwig-Leone.
That's it. Yeah.
Look it. That's my mom's maiden name. Is
Really?
Leone.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I got some of that in me.
Well, maybe we're related.
I think we are, but you got an E at the end of yours.
Right. I think ours came from. It's Italian, and I think it was from Galeone, which is like.
Ellis, just
something
bring it a little
like,
closer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can be like right here. How's that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Cool.
Yeah. If you want to, you can like just get your laptop out and answer with that fake voice that you compose with.
Mama. No, right. Actually, that voice. I also there's like a bunch of vocal samples on our records, and it's all this one woman who I'm friends with, Eliza, and she toured opening for us the first week, and like it was so trippy to like be playing, look out in the audience and see her and like play notes that just are her voice.
Yeah, that is trippy.
Really fucking weird.
What's her last name?
Her name is Eliza Bagg, B-A-G-G.
Shout out Eliza Bagg.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were just doing a big tour, 40 days, 40 nights, like
40 days, 40 nights. It's very biblical.
Like Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Very biblical tour.
In the desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see a snake?
Yeah, I didn't see any
Several,
snakes.
probably. Come on,
Saw some lizards. But
some lizard people.
some lizard. Now, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really memorable tour. It was great, but it was also man, after 3 or 4 weeks, you start to really feel it.
Yeah. Where did you go?
We started in New Hampshire, and then we just did like a big loop. So we went up through a lot of Canada, through Western Canada, Midwest, and then down the West Coast, all the normal stops, into Texas, and then back up through Atlanta, and then up into DC.
Where'd you play in Atlanta? I'm sweating.
We played Aisle 5, which is just,
I never heard of it.
It's nice.
I used to live in Atlanta.
Yeah. It's a nice venue. Yeah, really, yeah. I like that. I like Atlanta a lot. We don't I wouldn't say it's one of our best markets, but it's a fun place to play.
And this is with San Fermin, of course.
Yes.
Your band.
Yes.
Good shout out.
Shout out.
I didn't want to say it because I knew I was going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Do a lot of people get it wrong?
Well, yeah, it's one of those where when people stop us at gas stations, I say, "What's your band name?" I always wish it was something simple, but I'm like, "San Fermin." Stand for me?
Stand for me?
Yeah, who's Sam?
Y'all in a band or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, when they roll out with 20 people.
Yeah, I know. Well, at this point, yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah, that's nice.
Is it
actually.
high drama? Come on, it's got to be high drama.
It's actually lower drama.
Low drama, right?
Because,
you spread the drama.
Yeah, if you're a
little bit for everyone.
Yeah.
If I have a couple friends in bands where there's like 3 or 4 people, and I feel like that's actually more.
That's worse.
Because then you're like, you get sick of each other, all this shit. For us, it's 8, so it's like, if you're not talking to one person, that's fine. There's 7 other people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
You seem like an accidental rock star. Is that right?
Well, I certainly wasn't planning to have a band. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But you're so road dog now.
I know.
Like you are the epitome of the road dog.
I know. Honestly, well, I just remember the first record that we made. I just thought I'd put it on the internet. I didn't have any thoughts about it, and then.
No, I know. I saw the documentary.
Yeah.
I liked the documentary.
Thank you. Yeah, that was sort of
sweet.
funny. Yeah, it was fun. That was a nice, like, it was sort of the end of a chapter for us. So it was kind of a good timing to make that documentary. But
what happened to that member that left? What's her name again?
Charlene. She's in town. She's actually gonna come to our show at Brooklyn Steel next week.
She gonna sit in?
She might come join for one song. Yeah,
okay.
Which would be kind of fun. But she's in grad school right now. And, she's growing up in all the best ways. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, I really did not think. I mean, I'm not really like a natural performer. I never wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then I remember sitting in on the first record, like first meeting with Josh Deutsch, who signed us to our first deal, and he was like, "So you're gonna tour a lot?" And I was like, "Well, I guess if you say so."
Yeah.
And here we are, 6 years later.
But you must love it.
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nice. It's the only way I feel like it's the only time in my life, like I'm always writing music, but it's the only time where someone gives you a schedule, says do this, 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 and this. At the end of the day, if you did it right, we'll clap for you.
Right. I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even today, like I'm like my hair's wet because I just got out of yoga, but even like I was jumping up out of Savasana and going, and I was like in the shower, I was like thinking, I'm one of the people with something to do. Because as a musician, so often you're just like aimlessly wandering or like, you know, like it felt good to be like one of the business people that had to jump up and be somewhere.
Yeah.
Like for this. I
mean,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a similar thing.
I'm happy for this today because, you know, we got back last night at whatever it was, 11:30 or something. Usually the day after a tour is kind of a nightmare. You're like, you wake up and you're just like, what do I do?
Right.
But I'm like, well, I got to get to this podcast. So.
Yeah, so I'm still on the road.
Yeah, I'm still on the road.
I'm still doing it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
At least you slept in your own bed.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was nice, yeah. Save my existential crisis for later today.
When's the next one?
So the next tour is going to be early next year. We haven't announced it yet. Not totally sure. Moving some things around, but we have the second part of this 2-part record coming out, and when that comes out, we'll do some touring around it. Probably a little less heavy than this tour, which was heavy.
Heavy.
Yeah.
What do you do about the existential? Is that how you say that word? Existential. What do you do? How do you deal?
You know,
What's
I guess I'm kind of
I'm
kind of old fashioned. I mean, the one thing I do is I really try to like keep like a pretty strict schedule, even when I'm just at home. Like, so I make sure that I'm writing by like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I try to be writing until about 7. So like I set like
really every day.
I try, yeah. I mean, you know, it doesn't always work. That's the plan.
8 hours.
You're making me feel bad about my life.
Hey, no, that's definitely.
What do you do with all the songs? Like I've stacked songs. I have like so many. I go through phases where I write like that.
Yeah.
But then I have like
stacked.
40 songs. And I'm like, I got to put out 10 at a time. It's like, fuck, dude. Like, if I wrote every day from 11 to 7, I would literally have like 300,000
Yeah,
songs.
no. Well, I actually my approach to it is that when I'm writing for the band, I do it like really specifically, like during. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to write a record for the band. I spend like a month and a half or 2 months in writing. So everything else, though, my sort of day job outside of the band is that I'm a composer for other...
Ballet.
Yeah, ballet and whatever. These sort of various things. I'm doing a musical and an opera right now. And so for those things, actually, those kind of work better in that daily schedule.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm writing for the band, it's much more like, I think, how you're describing.
Liberal,
yeah, you're just
whatever.
like, all right, I'm going to like, you know, stay up late. You know, maybe I'll go out, you know... Or out, you know, often I'll go travel somewhere, and then and that kind of writing is a much more like comes from the heart, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other kind doesn't come from the heart as much, more from the head.
I think it's more from the head. I mean, you know, you try to find a balance there, but you know, at a certain point, if it's like, okay, I'm writing 25-minute ballet, like you know, you can just be all right. Well, I need to do 5 minutes here, you know. 6 minutes like this, 5 minutes, and you can actually think about it a little bit more, just a little more, like plan it out, you know.
Yeah.
But whereas with songs, it's like wherever the song takes you, that's like where you got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many albums have you made now with this band?
So it's been 4 studio albums plus a live record.
Okay, so you're like on album number 4, basically.
Yeah. This is the big.
That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, man.
I remember that.
This is our Born to Run.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's the first time on this tour I was like, man, we've been around. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like here we are in you know, whatever, Edmonton, and like I don't want to look around. Like I've been here. Like I've done. You know, this is enough tours now.
Yeah, because I watched a couple of interviews with you, and you were talking about it was like. I think it was like your second run through, and you're like, yeah, this time I've been to places, so now I feel more home, like everywhere or something.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But,
that's definitely happened.
Yeah.
To the point now where like I was
now
like.
you're like old school. You just don't even care. You're jaded.
My girlfriend came to visit in where is it? Washington, D.C. And she like had never been or hadn't been since she was a kid and wanted to do all this stuff. And she was like, let's go.
Let's go see the dinosaurs.
And I was like, I think I'm going to sit in this green room until you know, 8 p.m.
Really?
Yeah, you know, I was also like week 5. You kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate yoga. I'm obsessed with that, but I make sure I just got off the road too, and I'm getting ready to tour another 2.5 months.
Oh wow, that's serious.
Coming up, yeah. In March, starting in March.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where are you guys going?
Starting in Europe.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, like in Ireland and then all the European things.
That's great. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
March in Europe is it's like a bone cold. You know, you're like I always feel like when I'm in Europe, we always end up there like winter, and like my feet just aren't warm for the entire time.
Yeah. I got those Vibram shoes. Like,
oh, there you go.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
You know those?
Yeah.
The 5-finger ones?
I got to get those. Yeah.
Dude, once you get those, you like, look at, there they are right there.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They're the greatest.
I need those, man.
We want a sponsorship from Vibram, please. Anyway. Yeah, like, no, they're the greatest. Because they teach you how to like use your feet again. Like your feet are perfect technology. That's the idea.
Interesting.
I've been running on them, and like what it is like if you have those big padded like supposedly protective ones,
yeah,
you like heel strike and you're like and basically you're shutting your senses off. So you're kind of making yourself dumb, I guess, in a way.
Sure,
and so you're like hitting your knees and your hips. That's why people get hip and knee injuries.
That makes sense.
It does. And then when you start running on these, because there's no padding, you have to run more gazelle. Like you have to, you relearn how to run.
Yeah.
And it spreads the impact in a way that makes it so you can run like longevity wise.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, I feel like
it's fun.
The process of touring is like getting in touch with your body a little bit, you know.
That's what I think too. That's why I ask about these kind of things, because it's like I don't think people understand, like, to actually legitimately do this thing that you're doing. It's an athletic and also psychological. It
really is.
I don't know the word, but you know, like athletic and psychologically demanding.
Yeah. No. Yeah, man. I mean,
exercise that I think's interesting.
It's at this point, it's kind of lame on tour. Like you look around the green room, everyone's doing yoga or like stretching, or and it's like, this is, you kind of have to. I mean, I started getting really bad back problems like maybe 3 years in, and so now I like, you know, I do Pilates and
I love Pilates.
Yeah, you have to do it. Like,
I'm into it. Joseph Pilates.
Yeah, right.
That's his name.
I know. It's always funny when when it's just, like this thing that just feels like it's as ancient as time was made up by some guy like
named
20 years
Joseph
ago.
Pilates. Yeah, I guess he named it. I forget, but it was something else. He gave it a different name, and they just said, "Nah, we're gonna call it your last name."
That's the bad thing about having a last name like mine, which is Ludwig-Leone. Is no one's gonna name anything after a name that's that hard to say.
Dude, didn't you want to just call yourself Ludwig-Leone?
Yeah.
Damn, bro. Like honestly, you're doing really well. But if you just would have gone with Ludwig-Leone,
it'd be better.
Yeah. Well, you'd be on the cover of Rolling Stone by now. Where'd that come from? Like, are your folks like classical fans?
Not at all. No, so it's literally my dad's last name is Ludwig. It's a modified, just Jewish name, and then my mom's is Italian, so they just put them together.
That's amazing. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Massachusetts, in like a really small town called Berkeley, and kind of woodsy area.
Okay. Yeah. I saw that one you did with shout out Kyle Meredith, where you talked about slaying animals as a boy, or it was like it was in one of your songs.
Slaying animals.
Is that in the woods?
You remember that?
Yeah,
in the woods.
About that? I didn't know.
Yeah. This
story?
guy. I mean, secret.
I love that song.
Fucking weirdo.
I had no idea.
Secret weirdo.
I love that song. It is weird. It opens the album, right?
I remember I chose that song to open the album. I was working with Peter Cadis on that record, and he's been around, made a lot of great records.
Which ones?
Salamanders, right? Pulling legs off salamanders.
Yeah, exactly.
Something?
Yeah, so we were working on Jackrabbit together, and Peter's done many much more successful records than I have, and I was like, so that's gonna be the opener, and he was like, "Yeah, sure."
Oh, really?
He's like, that's a fucking weird song to start a record.
Yeah. Why'd you want to start it with that?
Because that whole record's kind of about like this loss of innocence, and and I mean, I guess that's kind of a theme for me, but and that story that starts the record is just based on this time that I went back. When I was a kid, I used to go in the woods. I used to catch like animals and hang out, and I'd bring my friends back there, and maybe when we were in like, I don't know, 7th grade, I brought some friends back there, and suddenly like they were kind of too cool for it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends brought his brother, and his brother just started like mutilating these animals, and it was like fucked up, you know. And like I just remember it being like the first moment where I was like, the world is kind of a cruel place. You know?
Really?
Yeah, and I wanted to start that record with like a memory of that kind of.
That gives me chills right now. No, it does. It's like it's powerful.
That song.
The world
so
is
good.
well. The world is a cruel place.
Yeah. Well,
do you think that?
You know, I kind of do, and I think that one of the like sort of beautiful but also really sad things about art is it's like trying to make sense of that always, and you know you can't really. So it's always a struggle.
Yeah, I was watching. I'm a big fight fan. I like. Yeah, it's like speaking of the world is a cruel place. And I was going down a fight rabbit hole last night, and then it got onto like Conor McGregor like terrorizing people or whatever, and I was like watching Conor McGregor do his thing, and I was like thinking, like the world is like a battlefield, and like he embodies that in the sort of modern era, I guess, in a way. But it's like it's interesting because the world has like a I don't know, it's built on wars and death and destruction and all this other wild shit. It's like
since day one.
But I don't feel that way. Like I wake up, I try to do Ho'oponopono prayer, go to yoga. I love you. Where's my like cruel? Like where's my like war mentality?
Yeah, well, I mean, why do you have to do all that stuff, right?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Right.
No, and I'm not an innocent. I'm not claiming that at all. But I'm just saying, like,
it's interesting.
It is weird.
Well, Mike Hanf, who's the drummer in San Fermin, he was listening to
Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf. He would lol at that. Michael Hanf, and he was listening to this podcast a few years back when we were on tour. It was basically about like the history of the world, and he like kind of turned to us and was like, "Man, in order to be remembered at all, you have to kill at least like 5,000 people."
Yeah,
you know,
to get a statue somewhere.
Yeah, and it's true, and I think that's like.
Or make a poppin' record.
Yeah, make a pop, exactly. And slay all the fans.
And slay at least 5,000 fans a night.
We did a show. We played
that you are slaying fans when you crush it out there.
Yeah,
that counts.
We played a show opening. We played at Outside Lands, and we were like on the main stage, earlier in the day, and the headliner was Metallica. And we stayed around. We're really excited to see them.
Of course.
And
you better have.
Got on stage. That was amazing. I mean, literally, like, first of all, we're like, we're sound checking while there's these giant like taiko drums all around us. It was like, it was amazing. But anyway, their show started. And got on the mic, and James Hetfield was like, "How you guys doing in the back?" There's literally 100,000 people there. How you guys doing in the back? You alive back there? And people like, yeah. He's like, "In order to rock, you must die." I was just like, yes, Metallica. Just like flames like went up after that. It was amazing. Yeah, so he knows what's up.
Yeah, he knows what's up. Yeah, there's that one book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's something like the rebellious history of America or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
And it talks about like everybody's just getting fucked up. Like in the founding father times, it was nothing but like hookers and drunks.
People who didn't want to pay taxes.
Just like it was like tons of that.
Yeah.
Like this whole country was founded on that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's funny.
Yeah, it's weird now. It was, we were like, I just think that things have changed too, where it's like the days of, rock bands trashing hotel rooms and shit. Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore in the same way, because like there's just not. Done. Yeah, it's just not the resources. Like if we trash the hotel room, we're like, all right, well,
okay,
we're going home now.
Yeah,
the label will drop you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's really, it feels kind of corporate in a way that's a little, or cleaned up at least, which is kind of interesting when you read those old histories of like
Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what made you decide to like be a musician when you were? Well, how'd you go from the woods and pulling salamander legs off to like, I know I'm gonna compose some jams.
Some jams. Yeah, my that's my every day. It's my to-do list. It's compose some jams. At the top of my list.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
from 11 to 7.
Yeah, fuck.
Man,
I think I might have overstated that.
I hope you did.
With a lunch break in the middle, I hope.
No, I take a lunch break. But my whole family are visual artists. My parents are both painters and were professors, and my sister and my cousin, who's like another sister, are both painters, artists as well. And so it's just like a family like tradition to be in the arts,
an artist.
which is cool. But I remember I was also a good drawer and whatever.
Do you still paint?
Not really, because I remember I was in high school. I was like kind of the star like art student in my like whatever sophomore year class, and did a bunch of drawings and put them up, and they had open house for parents. My parents came in, and they were like, and they're like, yeah, this looks all right. And I was like, there's got to be an easier way to impress them.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on, don't let them get under your skin, Alice. You could still do it, man.
No, it was actually I just always, music was the way that came naturally to me. I sort of realized that when I was like 10, it's like, hey, if you're making noise, people have to pay attention to you. And I kind of liked that.
Yeah.
So that was really what it was.
So what'd you start on?
Piano. But I kind of kept it separate from like I was like a sport, like I was a basketball player when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah, you always wanted to wear basketball shoes.
I always wanted to wear basketball shoes. You did your research. It was good, yeah.
He is tall. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2", yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my...
I'm 6'5".
Yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah.
you'd be a good center.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. Maybe a forward, power forward.
Yeah. Exactly. But we, so I,
you guys should find a few other 6 foot tall New York
musicians.
singer-songwriters and get a team going.
Win Butler out here or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was, I kind of kept it separate. Like I took piano lessons, but I liked, I just thought it was kind of nerdy, and I didn't want it to be like something that was my thing. And then when in high school I met my friend Andrew, who was he was like from a really religious family. He was big into Christian rock and
Striper?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Was he?
No, he was into, he liked a lot of, but he was also a big Metallica fan. He was just like a metalhead. And I was like, I'd never heard.
Was into Jesus as well.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I had never heard, I'm from like a family of charlatans, so it's like, I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. So anyway, we started this, this metal band, and it was called Entropy.
Which is a tough sounding word, but actually probably not a really good band name.
No.
It's kind of like boredom.
Yeah. It's just like
well, I guess the boredom.
Shit falls apart.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, and that was
Entropy's not
a point of
shit falls apart.
Right, shit falls apart.
I guess that is pretty good.
Well, and I didn't even like, had no, I was just like playing like, C minor, like strings, like, and on the keyboard, and we had, these rehearsals that we sounded fucking terrible, but it was like the first time where I felt like I owned it rather than was just like in some old lady's house, like learning how to play the piano.
How old were you there?
I was 14, I think. And then I had a series of bands in high school, and and the Entropy was short-lived, mainly because the main argument turned out to be whether or not we should write songs about girls or not.
And what side were you on?
I was pro. I was a pro.
Okay, I'm actually glad to hear that.
I mean, it was a moot point because we didn't have a singer, so it was like we were writing these songs with lyrics that no one was singing, so it didn't matter.
Fucking funny, and it broke up the band.
And so then I went off and I haven't been in the metal sphere since then, really, except for my brief experiences with Metallica.
Yeah, well, that's cool. There's always time.
Exactly.
I bet you can make a really good metal record if you put your mind to it.
There's this band, this guy I went to school with. He like disappeared after school. We didn't hear from him for a while, and he came back with this band called Earthside, which is like this prog metal.
I like that name.
Yeah, Earthside, exactly. And I didn't know him too well, but they had this record, and we were listening to it in the bus yesterday. It's like the most insanely like intricate, like through composed like metal with all this crazy shit and like 3/8 bars, and it's kind of amazing.
It inspired you.
Yeah,
huh?
I mean, it's super like just a different sort of zone than what I do, but metal is like such a robust, like, there's so many ways you can take that it was really cool. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it's cool. You are approaching it from a different perspective, where you're like, composing for all the instruments and the singer, and so the singer isn't necessarily like the most essential element all the time,
right?
Or you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm putting that.
No,
right.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. It's like it gives you a different it's a different vibe.
Yeah, it's a little funny. I mean, I feel like my job is like really weird in the band, which is I'm writing all these parts, but I'm also with the singers. It's like this more like it's a really personal thing where it's like I'm writing songs, but I need to make sure that they feel like it can come from them.
Yeah.
And it ends up being, especially with Alan, who sings the half of the songs.
Shout out Allen Tate.
We met when we were 15, so anytime I give him anything, he's like, there's a lot of push and pull.
There is?
Oh yeah. He's like, I'm not gonna sing that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So that must be intense.
It's intense, yeah.
Because you must put your foot down sometimes, or
sometimes, but like he kind of, in a way, I mean, the ultimate power is just not opening your mouth to sing it, right? So he's like, I'm not going to do that unless we rework this. And there's, our collaboration, our history of working together has had so many iterations that like, I think we both kind of know what we're going to think.
Right. What's an example of that?
So like
where he refused.
Yeah. I'm trying to think most recently.
But he was cool with pulling salamander legs.
Yeah, he likes that shit.
Like that shit?
Yeah.
Is it another one with if it's about a girl, he won't do it?
He's like,
you keep drawing that thing into your life over and over again.
I'm like, I just want to write cool songs about girls, man.
Hell no, dude. It ain't coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, Christian rock. Yeah, no, Alan, I'm trying to think on the most recent record, like, there was like on the one that's about to come out that hasn't come out yet, the second half, there's a song where like basically he was just like the pre-chorus is the chorus, like, and I had a whole other chorus. He was like, this chorus is not working, it sounds lame, and it kind of sounds like some of the other stuff we've done. And I was like, no, this works. And finally I was like, let's record it both ways, and he was actually ended up being totally right. So we cut the chorus, and so that kind of thing happens actually a lot with him. Whereas I would say that it's coming from such a long sort of collaboration, whereas if I'm working with Claire or with Carly, it's a little bit more like we have a conversation about what we're trying to accomplish. There's some push and pull, but it's a little less like sort of like base level, two 15-year-olds like fighting it out in the basement.
Yeah.
Just kind of still what Alan and I are like.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I kind of like started thinking about Massive Attack when I was checking your stuff out.
Yeah,
I
love Massive Attack.
Yeah, like because it's like there's like oscillating singers, and
the
singer is part of the thing, but it's like the mind behind it is the overall.
Yeah.
Somehow more so.
Yeah.
I
think Massive Attack is a pretty good
good reference.
correlate. Yeah. I mean, I think what we're trying to do is weird, right? It's like on the one hand, when people come to the shows, still half of our fans just think the songs are coming from the they don't care. They just like the song. So you have to sell it. At the same time, like it's obviously it's this sort of weirder, the car's being driven from the back seat a little bit,
right?
That's just like a really tricky thing, but it does give us some versatility where if I'm writing a song, I could write it for Alan, I could write it for Carly, I could write it for Claire. That's like 3 different parts of the keyboard. I can literally write for any range, any kind of register. Alan's really warm. Claire can be really like athletic. There's just lots of ways to
athletic.
Yeah, like you can give her really like.
I thought you were going to say shrill.
No, God. We're not, that is no.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say that, but then you said athletic.
No, I thought she's like like Alan like. The best.
By the way, I didn't hear her, so that wasn't a comment on that. By the way, I wasn't like, it just was like a prediction.
No, she, like with Alan, like the best melody you can give Alan is like, is actually fairly, the range is kind of small. Like it doesn't move a lot because he's just got so much like richness to his voice that he can do a lot with it. But sometimes I want to write melodies that are moving all over the place. And so like on our most recent record, we have the song Saints, that like starts at the very, very bottom note that Claire can sing and ends at the very, very top. And like that's kind of a fun challenge for me to write like that. And I think it's fun for her to sing most of the time.
Yeah.
Except when she's got like a cold.
2 weeks on the road.
Exactly.
Are there egos where you try to balance it with like, okay, I got to make sure Alan gets 3 songs and she gets 3 songs so nobody feels left out, or whatever happens and they're all fine with it?
It's pretty chill. I mean, I think the fact that like there's so many of us on stage and that like Alan is by nature like a pretty team player kind of guy. And same with Claire and definitely Carly as well. So it's actually like sort of amazingly devoid of ego. But I do think that, if I started giving Allen songs that weren't, right for his voice. So he'd just be like, what are you doing? So there's definitely like I have to hold up my end of the bargain too, for sure.
That'd be one way. If you want to get rid of them, you just start like writing in fucked up keys for them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't know, bro. This is what I was feeling lately.
Well, so this guy
subtly, like, no songs for you in this album. I'm sorry. Next time. Next tour will get you. Stick in there, buddy.
The shaker,
The tambourine
on this tour, on this tour we did a
Allen on the cowbell.
He likes playing that guitar though. We got two guitars on stage, and he's like, as soon as he can, he gets to the back of the stage and just plays guitar. Like as soon as he's not singing, he kind of likes being like a member of the band in that way.
Yeah.
But we had talking about.
He doesn't do both. He only plays guitar or sings.
Sometimes he'll do both. Sometimes he'll do both. But sometimes it's nice to give him a chance to pick up the microphone and kind of walk around and own it. But we did. You're talking about keys for Allen. We there's this one of our fans gave it to me a little while ago, and he had like written this like whole paper on our record Jackrabbit, which is really cool, and he sent it to me. It was interesting. But one of his points was like, the record starts in the key of G and it ends the key of G, and this is this like. And I was like, yeah, but also just that's the key that Allen likes to sing.
Right. He was trying to make a concept out of what key it was?
Yeah.
What was the concept?
I kind of forget, but it had to do with the sort of the cyclical nature. I don't want to paraphrase him. I mean, he had a lot of good points, but I wanted to be like, I wish I could say that was totally why, but Allen made me change the key.
Right.
So I was like kind of random. Yeah.
What about you singing? Don't say you can't sing. I bet you can.
I'm okay.
I can hear your voice. All you do is it's sustained talking, and you have a nice voice.
Oh, thank you. Well, so do you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you could sing, but so why don't you?
I people don't believe me when I say this, but I've just never wanted to. Like,
right.
It doesn't feel.
I believe that.
Okay. Well, good. You're the first. No, I just feel like it's like, I really like the idea. I like working with, like, why would I sing if I can work with someone like Allen?
Yeah, no, it seems awesome that you're the way you kind of have this more it makes sense to me because I am like singer-songwriter guy,
sure.
So I understand. And but yet I do like understand I compose stuff too. So I could see from your end why that would be like an empowering place to sit and bring about something unique.
And to be honest, I mean, this probably says something kind of like, this was one for the therapist, but like I like that there's some distance between me and the music.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Then there's like a song on this new record where it's called Cerulean Gardens, and it's just basically about my dad, and like I just like it's too close,
Yeah.
And even for that one, I couldn't even stand at the keyboard for it, so I moved to the drum set. I play the drums on that song because I just want to be like as far away from it happening.
It's
as
called
I can.
Swirling Gardens.
Cerulean Gardens. Like,
Cerulean.
Yeah, it's color blue. Yeah. Cerulean.
Oh, Cerulean.
Yeah,
oh, okay. What's that one? What's that one like? How's that one go?
Well, it's got the chorus. It's got the lyrics. It's just like, tell me, Father, did I do it right? So we call it in the band. We call it the Sad Dad Sing Along. So, but it's an intense song, and I'm proud of it, and I think it's good. But I just don't want to be up there watching people listen to it. So, and I feel like that distance is important for me always. You know? So that's part of why I have people sing the songs. It keeps me a little bit safe.
Is it still like with the folks, like kind of like they were with the art, with the music, or are they more enthusiastic?
My parents they're very supportive of the music. They're like, I think both of them, they don't really know music very well.
Yeah.
So my dad, like when he talks to me about it, they're both really smart about aesthetic stuff. And my dad will be like, I love that song that kind of where it sort of sounds transparent for a little while. Like he uses like visual language,
stuff,
So that's actually really nice for me because I feel like they can enjoy it without it being too close to them,
Yeah.
And I feel that way with my whole family. It's like kind of nice to be doing something a little bit different than everyone else. I mean, my cousin and my sister are definitely like, I think they have to navigate a much more complicated, like just emotional space about what they're doing
because
as painters.
It relates to your parents.
Yeah, exactly. And just like, we came up with that. My uncle and my aunt are both artists. Like, it's just, that's like what the family does. And like, I'm like off, in Edmonton playing like rock music or whatever. It's like, you know, it's nice to have a little bit of a distance from that sort of like thing.
Yeah. I paint as well.
Really?
Oh yeah.
They kind of go hand in hand.
I think so a lot. Yeah. Especially like producing music and painting, and it's like layering. It's
totally
very similar.
And there's like a mastering process at the end where you're kind of like you're doing with like if you put like gesso on, put gloss at the end, and I feel like watching it from afar, it's like this makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. I always think that if I wasn't a musician, though, I would have been a writer. Like I think that's actually the direction I would have gone, because I feel like
poetry.
I think maybe like, or actually just like fiction. I feel like what I really am drawn to is, kind of storytelling over time.
Yeah. You'll probably end up writing Broadway musicals.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on one now, actually. Right. So yes, but it's
what's the theme of that?
It's a story about basically a family over the course of generations and sort of the cycles of trauma in America. So really light stuff,
That's interesting. Yeah. I made a concept record called The Family, which was about my family over generations, really? But a sort of incorporating real stuff with like also just stuff I could make up. Wow. Called The Family.
That's awesome. I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, The Family.
Chad Blake mixed it. Shout out Chad Blake.
All right, Chad Blake.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have that kind of connection, right? To like think. I mean, I sort of, one of the things that's been really powerful about working on this piece is thinking about that, is like, even just, thinking of where we are right now, even like 100 years ago, this place still existed, or, and what was going on here. And there's just so much like history now in America and in New York. And like, that's where the show takes place, New York. So.
Oh, cool. This is Charlie Parker made this space.
I heard.
And then John Coltrane and Miles Davis played here.
Yeah, all right. That's not bad.
Lots of ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Soon San Fermin.
When did you,
right.
So, and then, you famously went to Yale.
Oh God, I know.
And I knew you were going to react like that because I saw you react that way in another interview. Somebody said, "So Yale," and they were all impressed, and you were like, fuck.
Why
do you hate that so much? Because people rate. Because people. Can I psychoanalyze it for a second?
Do it.
It's because
an open book.
It's because people put an importance to it that you see as false.
Yes.
So you don't. So you don't like it, But it does, but I'll say this, the way your career has played out, you have a sophistication to what you're doing that legitimizes people being impressed with you going to Yale as much as you don't want.
Yeah, no,
and also it doesn't take any kind of legitimacy away from you at all. It doesn't it doesn't at all mean like, oh, you ain't real because you went to Berkeley, like that whole thing. You know what I mean? Like
this is my nightmares right here.
It's not the cred. It's no lack of cred. In fact, I think, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think the thing that bothers me about it a little bit is like, if I had just known that was going to be the story of like,
right.
My career, like I would have just not ever told anyone.
Right.
But I think, it's like.
Well, it's not. It's just a part of it.
Yeah, I know. But I just think that people bring like a certain.
Take it out of your bio.
Well,
it's too late for
it's
that,
actually,
bro.
It's sadly like, a lot of those things.
Too late.
A lot of those things are at this point. It's like.
It's already,
he'll take it out of Wikipedia and Yale will go back and put it in.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like, it was a good place. I learned a lot and I met a lot of good people, but I met also, there's, I feel like the things that I'm the most proud of, like that our band is able to do and that I've done in music, like have been after that time. So it feels a little silly to talk about.
It's just part of where you came from though.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like what did you go? Did you go to a different college besides Yale before Yale? No, you just went.
No, I did it, and I did. When I got there, I was thinking about playing basketball actually. So I was choosing between.
Oh, you were still like weighing. So were you really good in basketball?
I was
in high
good.
School?
Yeah, I was a good player. Yeah. And
okay.
I had some Division I interest, and I was thinking about going to Brown to do it, and then I was like, okay, well maybe I'll, and they were. whatever. Basically, when I got to Yale, I very quickly realized that I didn't want to do that anymore, and I wanted to do music. But I had been in all these rock bands like in high school, and like the rock music scene is basically non-existent there. Like it's like either you do classical music or you do a cappella, and like you know, I was not going to do a cappella, so I was like, all right, well, I'll do this other thing. You know, I think that I really learned a lot, but like it was partly just because of that's what was available there. You know, if I had gone to like, I don't know, and even like Wesleyan, which is down the street, like they have like a much more robust like rock music scene. And so I always feel now like, you know, I kind of missed that experience of like playing college like rock shows. And that was kind of a downer, but I did learn a lot.
Well, you're making up for it now.
Yeah,
you're
seriously.
playing so many college rock shows.
I've seen
it's
a lot
crazy.
of college, like, yeah, exactly. A lot of grungy, you know, basement shows, that kind of thing.
So then why'd you decide to move to New York?
I moved to New York actually for a job. Right out of school, I started working. I knew I wanted to be here anyway. I mean, that's just where things were, especially in 2011.
Did you think about L.A. or no?
No, and in 2011, it was like, you know, the Brooklyn music thing was like there was like a really clear scene that was happening here, which I wasn't even aware of that being a scene. I was just like, these are all the people that I grew up listening to and liked. Yeah.
Like who?
Well, so the person who I kind of started working for when I moved here was this guy, Nico Muhly, who's a composer and arranger, and he had done a bunch of stuff. You know, he's has a really great classical career, but he'd also done a bunch of arrangements for like Grizzly Bear and you know, Anthony and the Johnsons and all these people. And I was like, well, that looks good. Like I really would like to
rate those bands.
Yeah, it was all cool. And so, you know, I started working for him as an assistant, and then through him kind of got involved in a few other, you know, with a few other bands that I really liked. And so I just made sense to kind of be here, both for that and also just because if you know, grew up in Massachusetts, then we're in school in Connecticut. Close. Yeah. And LA, like, to me was just like the sort of pop world, which was not exactly what I was interested in. And, so, you know, when I got here, it was kind of amazing, the scene that was happening here. I mean, I was working on all these records just as a, you know, assistant, basically. But it was like I was in the studio with a lot of really cool bands that I think influenced me a lot. Was
that more of an education, you think, than even Yale? Probably?
Definitely, that was the big thing. The
real education.
Yeah, Nico was interesting because he was he was the first person who kind of kicked my ass a little bit. He was just like,
how so?
Well, he was like, I remember working on something for him. I think I was working on he had this record Planetarium with Sufjan and with Bryce Desner, and they had like all these trombone arrangements, and I was just sort of going through and making sure they looked like good on page and everything. And I like went out and
what do you mean look good on page?
So they have like there was 7 trombones, and all of them had sheet music that they had to, you know, read, and basically it was my job to just make sure the sheet music was legible. Easy. It was legible, was easy to read, you know, made sure that the arrangements were right. You know, nothing
clashing.
Yeah, exactly. I like went out for a little while, and I came back, and I just had like 20 emails. And the last one was just no from Nico. Just like, this is wrong, no. You know, and like he just like expected me to get stuff done fast and right. And like in college, it was more just like, you know,
I'm doing my best.
Yeah, it was like, you know, yeah. And suddenly it was like, this is the big time, and like, you know, this is due in 2 hours, and they're gonna record it in 3 hours, and like you better get this shit done. And that was such like a. It was really important for me because I think it was where I started to be like, okay,
taking responsibility.
And I need to have the substance here. I need to be able to really do this.
Yeah.
You know, so I learned how to use, you know, software a lot faster, and I also just learned how to run a recording session, and you know, I feel like still today I use those skills every day. So yeah, that was my real education. And
then, so when did you go from that to? And you were you? I imagine you were composing at that time already, or?
Yeah, I actually, it kind of was so I graduated in whatever the spring. Then the fall, I wrote the first San Fermin record, where I went off to this like artists like cabin residency
retreat.
thing. Yeah, retreat. And
what's that called?
It's called Banff Center for Yeah, Banff Center for the Arts, and it's in
Banff?
Banff, which is in Alberta, Canada.
Oh, okay.
And I honestly just applied because I had visited there when my mom was there when she was an artist. So I was like, I just want to go do that, and it's cool because there's just a bunch of musicians in these like cabins writing a lot of classical people, but also some jazz people and some rock people. Just like a cool mixture. Canada, they have like money, so they fund this
For
shit.
the arts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
Isn't that wild?
it's pathetic for America, but it was. So that was cool, and I wrote that record. But in the meantime, I was working for Nico, and sort of for some of his friends as well, sort of through that. And basically, I worked for him for like a year in college, and then a year and a half afterwards, and then I got this record deal off that first record. And
Who'd you get signed to?
Downtown Records.
Downtown.
Yeah, and that story was crazy because it was like something that just never happens anymore, or really ever, I guess. Which is, I recorded the record and we put on one show, and then there was a guy at the show who signed us. It was just like, that is, it's it was like a dream version of how it goes.
Yeah, mine was a dream version too, because I got signed to Peter Gabriel's label.
There you go. Wow.
And they just posted today.
I wanted to ask you about that.
They posted today my cassette alongside with Jeff Buckley's cassette of Grace.
Yeah.
It's from 1995.
I'm going to
That's
put
how
a
old I am,
photo
my
of this
friend.
on the screen, Joe, because it is insane.
It's crazy. They posted it today, so I woke up in memory lane. Like I was like, "Holy
Wow.
shit!" Yeah. So, and it was the same thing. I gave a cassette to a friend who gave it to a friend who sent it to somebody in New York. It got to Peter Gabriel.
Look at it's that cassette.
Yeah, they posted that today.
And you have like contact me and your phone number on
My
there?
phone number
Yeah,
and everything.
Find me.
Atlanta.
I think it says
find me out.
Yeah, find me
I guess
out.
I called it "Find Me Out."
And
yeah.
what is that photo on the cover?
That's me as a kid.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, that's awesome.
I know.
That's so cool.
It's wild.
But now you can't, like, when you're
I want that hairstyle again. That blonde bowl cut. I would look killer with that. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that's the move for you.
That might be
Your music might change a little bit.
I think that's like that would take me like if you went Ludwig-Leone and I went blonde bowl cut, we'd both be on the cover of Rolling
Yeah,
Stone.
exactly. All right, let's do it together. You want a duo?
Yeah.
Was it a song on each side? It says side B, Unbreakable Home. Was it just one song?
No, it was 10 songs. It was like I was making albums back then, just
so
like,
that's the name of the album.
I think I called it "Find Me Out," which I don't remember doing that, but I guess so.
It's now whenever you're, people you knew or how do you get signed? You're like, well, you make a cassette.
Yeah, and just give it to somebody in an AA meeting. That's what I did. Honestly, that is what I did. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, well, that was pre-internet. Internet wasn't even invented yet.
Yeah,
it's
just amazing. I mean, I feel like it's just so crazy. I mean, our first record came out in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Every record since then has been a whole new paradigm for like how it actually goes. How it gets distributed, what matters. I mean, I remember like that first record. It was like we were still talking about record sales, like in a like physical copies and shit. We were like pushing it on SoundCloud. Mm-hmm. It's like, and now on this one, it's like, we didn't even make CDs. You know what I mean? So it's all shit. It just changes every time. No,
we made CDs. I don't know why people want CDs.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
middle of the country still wants it. Yeah,
they do, and we made them and whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't, like vinyl. I get.
Yeah, sure.
But only barely. Sorry, vinyl heads, but like.
Don't you make CDs as a merch item, really?
Right.
Yeah, you just do.
That's kind of what it is. Yeah. So, and you're the guy you started working for. What's his name again?
Nico Muhly.
Nico Muhly. Now, when you started doing your own thing, what was his response to that?
He was really supportive.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I think for like a couple of weeks he was like, where are you? Like, where'd you go? Like, I need you right now,
Right. Like as like you started like empowering yourself, there must have been some push and pull there. Like it's human.
Yeah,
human
I think
nature.
he just, we'd been on because I was working from project to project basis. So sometimes, for a week I wouldn't really hear from him, and then it'd be like, I need this in 30 minutes. So, and suddenly it was like, well, if I'm going to be, on tour, I can't do that. And so pretty quickly, once we started touring, I stopped working for him, but, we stayed good friends. And I think I credit him with he was just really supportive. He's always been like a really good friend and mentor. So, I don't know. I think that takes like a special kind of person to care,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, so what you were saying too about like every time it's like a new thing. What are you thinking about the way the music business is now?
Yeah.
Like,
Man,
what's your feeling about it?
It's weird right now. This tour just went on. I felt like I was. Yeah, it was. I mean, I think right now it's like, I'm trying to think. I mean, I just if you ask me like, what do you want to write? I'd be like, I want to write an hour concept album where you have to listen from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, obviously that's just like not what happens right now. Like it's, you know, a lot of my friends are putting out song by song, you know, and you put out a, you know, 8 songs, you see which one reacts at Spotify or whatever, and then you kind of go out and tour. So I think that the fact that like attention spans have gotten shorter is a challenge, you know, for someone like me, and it's something that I have to start to really like contend with.
It might not be true though.
Yeah,
I mean, people like records still.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'm like, you know, we're maybe I'm this is like my conversations with my manager and my label now speaking through me, you know, rather than. But I think that like, it's just you know, I think the way to think about it is that conditions always change, and like the goal, the artist should just be able to account for the changing conditions and use those as like limitations to what you can do, but you can still make great stuff in any given set of parameters, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to, you know, to try to, you know, I think the next thing I do will probably be really different than what I just did with this most recent record. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like thinking in terms of records.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that helps me frame it.
Or cassettes.
Or cassettes, yeah.
But yeah.
I made a record called Days of Surrender where I just made cassettes pretty recently. I made one CD copy and I put it in my van and put it for sale. But in order to get the CD, you had to buy my van.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's the package.
That's amazing.
The van was the package.
And he painted on
the van. And I painted the van.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's a great idea.
It almost sold. Somebody in Australia wanted to buy it.
But how are you going to get the van to Australia?
Well, that shut it down. Other than that, it would have sold. Like,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
Thanks.
You should just be like, I got another record.
It was
it's in my house.
It was jammed in there, and you had to sit in the van to hear it.
Or
you had to listen to it.
I got another record. It's in my apartment, but you got to pay my rent in order to listen to it. You know?
Right, you have to sublet my place. It's a month by month record.
Yeah, I like this. We gotta have a business conversation.
Yeah,
that's just a brilliant idea.
New ways to release music. You know,
and it's crazy though. I was in. We just changed labels. We're working with Sony now, and I was in with them talking. And they're signing a lot of deals right now where the language isn't even record to record. It's like time periods. It's just like that's like, you know, over the course of these 2 years. And I guess that's just like how a lot of people are putting out music now. It's interesting and certainly is a little foreign to me, but like, you know,
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the way it's evolving.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
more access. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I'm getting ready to put out something else too. I got to figure it out, but I mean, do you ever want to put out your demos? Like, do you ever think like, oh, these demos are killer, and then you go make it a record, and then like, how do you like? Yeah. What do you think?
You gave us a look. Is that what's happening?
Yeah. No.
You've just done it because you have a heavy demo process.
I have a heavy demo process.
And some of those demos must be great.
They are pretty good. There's some of them. I made a face because the first demo is always me singing the songs, or often it's me singing a song, or it's like a really like stupid little vocal sample that you heard.
Right. Yeah. Your engineer was saying that in one of the interviews.
And I think if the me singing the song ever came out, I think it would be very funny for everyone. It's like me doing like an Allen impression, like.
Oh really? Because you're not singing in your authentic voice.
I'm trying to just imagine like where it hits in his voice, and it's not awesome to listen to, but. Yeah, sometimes I thought about that. Also, you know, I have lots. I have like just like pages and pages of like, you know, sketches of songs, lyrics, and sheet music and stuff like that. And people have asked about that in the past, and I just have like a whole.
What, just putting out books of songs?
Yeah, or just like, you know, selling some of those things at the merch stand or whatever. Like, you know, and that's something that maybe I'll do at some point. But I kind of like having those records still. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Did you ever listen to a band called Tinder Sticks?
No.
I love them.
Tender
You
Sticks.
kind of remind me of them too. a little
Really?
bit.
All right.
Yeah, I
The
was
UK.
like,
When are they,
yeah, UK.
are they current
So
now
good.
or?
Yeah, well,
haven't.
they
been-
were more current. I mean, I think they might still be doing it, but
well, I always say
they were
that
huge in the 90s.
National is a rip off Tender Sticks.
Tender Sticks.
in my-
That's
Yeah.
harsh, but the National probably influenced by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
They've
I
been
wouldn't
around
call
since
them
the
a rip-off,
90s.
but-
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Tender
the,
Sticks. I'll
the
check it out.
guy's voice is similar to
Yeah,
Alan's.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the thing with that shit.
So unique.
I mean, hey, I'm not would not refute the influence across any of those, but it is funny how, you know, if you have a voice that's like below a certain register, there's only so many people. It's like
Yeah.
for Alan, it's like the National. It's also it's
Tender
Bill
Sticks.
Callahan, and then it's
Yeah.
the dude from Crash Test Dummies, and that's it. Everyone's just
Yeah.
like those are like
Maybe Lanigan.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little.
there you go, right. And actually, I think Alan, he didn't tell any of us when he did it, but he went as a solo project and just opened for the Crash Test Dummies for a show.
Oh, he did.
And
That's
he
funny.
said it was like really funny to they like
Brad is
met-
great.
He was
I
like,
had to sign him for a session. I want to
Yeah.
have him on the pod.
Yeah,
He's
Let's get
a
him
really
on.
nice guy. He lives in New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah,
Let's do
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're doing their reunion 25-year anniversary tour or something to that album.
So, do you have any kind of meditation or prayer, God vibes going on with you, or what?
God
Are you
vibes.
a
I'm looking for it. I'm looking for
You
it.
look at- what's your deal?
My idea, yeah.
What's your deal, man? Is religion?
I'm looking
is
for
music
something.
Are you really?
But I don't know what I'm looking for yet, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's it comes down to that existential crisis stuff.
Yeah.
I think that it's I come from a pretty atheist family. That's kind of the vibe for me, but I think I do. I mean, this sounds corny, but I do come to music for a lot of that.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't sound corny.
Yeah, I just think like that's like where I work out
Mm-hmm.
issues, and it's also if I really thought about the experiences that I've had that have been the closest to some sort of
Mm-hmm.
God experience, a lot of that is like has been through music. And,
Yeah, of course.
And I think, you know, I mean, if you think of religion as basically just trying to commune with something outside of yourself,
Mhm,
like,
absolutely.
you know, there's a lot of things you can put in that spot.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know, but you know, it's a constant struggle, you know,
Yeah.
trying to find things to feel a part of. 'Cause I feel like often, and it's a theme in a lot of my music too. I often just feel kind of like very isolated
And lonely.
in a group of, even in a group of people, you know, and I think
Yeah.
that, that's what people are looking for when they go to religion. It's just communion, you know?
Well, do you have a conversation going on with the universe in your head? I mean, like that's prayer to me. Like,
Yeah.
Or is it like, is there anybody out there?
Yeah. We did this show in at a Christian college. Was it Messiah College or some place like that? On our first
That's a
record.
giveaway, Messiah. College.
Shout out Messiah College.
Any college
Yeah.
named Messiah.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
little on the nose.
Yeah. God College. We went to God College, and yeah.
Bow down University.
And we played this show at Bow Down University, and we were playing this song. It was our first record. We only had 10 songs or whatever to play, so we were playing one of the songs, and the song is called Daedalus, and the whole end of
Called
Daedalus.
Daedalus?
Yeah, Daedalus,
What's
like Icarus and Daedalus. It's like from the Greek myth.
okay.
But anyway, really, what the song is about is like basically God or looking for God, and and the last half of the song is like the chorus that they sing over and over again is what we have instead of God, what we have instead of God. They don't really ever answer the question, but they're kind of, you know. And I was up there, we're playing this song. These kids are all singing along. I'm like, man, music is some shit. This is like a weird, like, there's like all sorts of dissonances here that we're all kind of trying to, you know. But I thought it was interesting to see these people who clearly are there for, you know, that probably we wouldn't agree on a theological discussion, but we're both having this kind of religious experience in a different way.
Well, I mean, everybody's seeking.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really knows.
No. Right.
You know, I don't. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I mean, I think the fact that we're all kind of looking for a connection in these various ways is like one of the only things that makes me feel like, you know, the world isn't just like this difficult, cruel place. Like it's like, okay, we all are looking for something, you know.
No, I don't think I don't think it is. I mean, all this stuff wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, all this beauty.
Yeah.
Like if this was just like a violent fucking hellscape, you know? Like,
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, like I've been listening to Abraham Hicks a lot lately, and the power of manifestation and all that stuff, and just like, you know, your vortex and all that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think like it's like, you know, what you got to kind of constantly bend your mind towards the positive.
Yeah. No,
because you want to bring that out.
It's just it takes like a feat of you have to have a certain amount of like strength, you know, like literally to push your mind towards positive if that's not how you're necessarily wired, right? And like,
I don't think I think our gravity is like hellscape.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like if we just cave to I'm just like, your mind is gonna like devour itself. Well, that's what the point of disciplines are for. That's like why you go to a yoga practice. That's why you
start writing at 11 a.m. every day. Like you have to have mantras, these things, right? You have to have structure, or else you're gonna lose it.
Or else you lose it.
Yeah, I definitely like, I don't know, like I was thinking on this tour, like, man, you know, I could really, if even more structure would be helpful, because it's like any moment where I don't have some sort of thing grounding me, I feel like I don't know what to do with my hands, and suddenly like I'm like, I'm gonna like, you know, spiral out, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you do? Do you still play hoop?
Had to stop back problems, which is really upsetting.
Try the yoga, man.
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But what else do you do besides music to have fun?
Yeah.
Or anything?
Some. I mean, I
rollerblade.
Yeah, that would be good, right? Rollerblading.
That Walkman on.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut off teeth.
Just listening to like my own music, like this shit is great. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I do. I mean, I do keep up with sports. Like sports to me are really therapeutic. Like I watch sports. I do, I really like as much time as I can. I spend out in like nature. Like I try to. I mean, living in the city is not great for that, but I try to go back to Massachusetts pretty often, and I go for hikes and that kind of thing. And I like to be, like, I feel like actually that's my other sort of closest to God kind of experience, is
hiking,
like being in nature, and it's amazing. It's like all of my anxieties kind of short circuit when I'm just out in the woods. I'm like, okay, like I'm where I'm supposed to be now.
When a critter goes by, do you get a violent impulse, or are you letting them go by?
I was not the one killing the critter. I was the one worried.
Oh,
I was like, what are you doing, man?
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was my friend's brother. It was the one fucking up all those animals. Okay.
Yeah, there was a kid in my neighborhood too that would do that, and that freaked me out.
What's he doing now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know. I know your friend is okay. He turned out okay as a family man, right?
He's all right. Yeah. He seems fine.
Seems fine on the surface.
Right. Yeah. Who knows, man? You never know. But yeah, man. Those are the things I try to do. I try to get out. You know. Yeah. But that said, I could use a hobby.
Yeah.
Like Allen in our band, like he's really good at. He's got a dog, which it makes him feel really like connected to something. He also just loves like fucking around with gear. Like he loves like guitars and shit like that. Yeah. And that I feel like that is like kind of a nice thing for him, where he can. It's like kind of a hobby, but also obviously related to his career. Right. I could use something. Not
You're
quite.
Not a gearhead.
Not quite a gearhead.
What do you compose on?
So
Logic or Pro Tools?
It depends. I do Logic, or also I use Sibelius, which is like the notation software. And often I'll go back and forth a lot. Yeah. So I like play stuff into Logic, move it over to Sibelius, fuck around with it back and forth, and then at the end of all that, I usually have like a score and also a demo from Logic, and then a score from Sibelius, and then we record in Pro Tools. So it's like a fucking three program nightmare.
Hobbies can fuck you up though, because I'm like a bit over hobbied. I mean, I box, and I spend half the day like training like a professional athlete.
Yeah, right.
But then I'm like thinking like, hey, you're supposed to be doing music. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe I'll go to another yoga class. It's like, why don't you just sit down and write some like work on these mixes you need to work on? Oh, I'll do it after the yoga, and then I'll go home and I'll just like sit there and fall asleep.
Yeah, right. Well, but I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe this is justifying it, but it's like I feel like actually, if you're a songwriter, I try to remind myself this all the time. Like you need to live your life in order to have experiences to write about.
Yeah.
And it's just like if you just want to be working all day every day, like you don't have shit to write about. Like it's just gonna get into a rut. And I think that's important to find space for that. And I honestly need, like, that's something I need to work on, is finding space to be like, you know what, today I don't have a deadline. I'm gonna go like to a museum. I'm gonna go do, and that's just hard for me, because it's sort of like, then it's like, well, by the end of the day, I'm going to be having a panic attack. So.
Well, to sell you on the yoga thing, here's like my sales pitch on that, which is like, if I sign up for an early one, which and I usually do, I like walk there with a mantra, and then when I'm in the class, that's like 90 minutes, and I'm for one, you end up drinking tons of water right away. Your phone is off and in a locker for like for a whole hour and a half, and then if you don't turn it right on when you get out, which I usually don't if I don't, unless I have something to do, that's 2 hours without your phone. It's very mentally healthy. Yeah. Like if you just start your day that way, like it's hard to have a bad day after that.
That's really, You
know what I mean?
I buy that for sure.
It's because you've like, also just like, if I don't do that, like I can not drink enough water easily. Right. But if I do that, there's no way. Hot yoga, you're going to drink you're going to drink a gallon of water like before your day starts. And without your phone, 2 hours, it's like, you're connected. Yeah. It's nice.
All right. Well, let's go. I'll come with you.
You're invited, man. If seriously, if you want to go, there's a yoga studio to go to. You're more than welcome to come.
Yeah, man. It's my one of my good friends in LA, Fiona, she's a
Apple?
No, she's an actor, Fiona Dorff, and she's like, basically she does, I think, 2 hours of meditation, like, or like a long period of meditation almost every day. Yeah. And it's like, she does it in the morning. She's ready for her day. Yeah. And it's like, when I stay there, I'm like, holy shit, how do you do this?
2 hours, that's a lot.
It's intense, but also it's like, that's an investment in your day. You do that shit and you get out and honestly, it's kind of amazing.
But yoga's an active meditation.
So you get to actually move your body.
It's an active meditation, and then at the end there's a savasana, which is like, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. So there's just meditation there too. So it kind of enforces the meditation as well, which is, which is nice. I have some friends recently who are talking about Vipassana. I'm kind of interested in trying that.
What's the difference?
That one's like a 10-day meditation retreat.
Do you not talk or anything?
I guess nothing. It's spooky to me too. Like that's just you and your mind for 10 days with
I was just talking about this with my friend, another friend who went to one of those 10-day retreats a little while ago, and she was like, I wouldn't do it again, but like you're not supposed to make eye contact either, at least at the one that she was at. And she was like, and then like the retreat ends, and she was like, and she was also saying that like the issues that you're constantly thinking about start to just sort of feel like manageable, and like you can sort of place them in different boxes, which is interesting, like rather than it being this constant thing. And then at the end she was like, and you finish and you look someone in the eye and it's like it just like blows your mind because you haven't like done anything.
Blows your mind.
Yeah, just like it's like the intensity of human connection after that amount of time.
And, right. Why wouldn't she do it again?
I think she would, just because it was. I think she felt like it was maybe. That's just extreme, It's 10 days, and now she's got kids and shit. It's like how are you gonna go for 10 days and do
Yeah.
But I think that she felt like it was worth doing.
Huh.
I don't know if I could like
handle it.
I feel like I might,
lose it.
I'm not always comfortable in my own head.
None of us are, dude.
Yeah, right. I know.
Especially if you're like a musical genius, man. Which you seem to be. Well. So it's like that's extra pressure up there going on. All those notes are swimming around. It's
like, exactly. It's actually just me roller skating.
Rollerblading.
Just around my head
with jean shorts,
shouting, "You're an asshole! You're an asshole!" over and over again.
That does sound like a hellscape.
Did you ever see that? You ever watch BoJack Horseman?
Of course.
Did you see that episode, Piece of Shit, where like the whole time you just hear the voice in his head, just like, you're a piece of shit.
I don't remember that one, but that's a good show.
I was like, I felt very seen in that. I was like, oh fuck yeah, you're a piece of shit. You're like, not always. I'm not an unhappy person, but like, it's nice to hear that voice like externalized. Like, everyone has that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I was curious, since you said you were an artist, your album covers are usually simple but so memorable, and like so simple and unique, but yet complex, like the Cormorant and Jackrabbit. Like who has the where does all that come from? Is that you as well?
No, well, yes and no. So that's every piece of art that's ever been drawn or made for this band has been by Stephen Hawker, who's a friend of mine, who's a artist and graphic designer. He actually lives down the street from me. And he's just like actually brilliant and like sort of amazing at what he does. And I was connected to him, I think actually through, it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and he does a lot of Sufjan's album art as well. And he sort of connected me, and basically I was like, hey, I want a bull. Like I just want a bull as the cover of this thing. And he made this amazing bull, like just a
bull.
Bull.
Yeah, Bull. Yeah.
And he made this amazing.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and he's made this like sort of gorgeous like bull. And then after that, it was sort of like we've been in it together. And he's cool because he's both an artist, but he's also a graphic designer. So on this most recent record, I was like, I want like a bird like standing in front of like a weird fjord. He's like, great. I'm gonna make something that will actually look good on a T-shirt, you know. So he like made this sort of weird like like infinity logo.
Smart.
Yeah, and he I just think like working with him is the most fun part of every album, because I'm just like, I'll call him and be like, here's some thoughts I had about, you know, and he'll like turn it into this sort of amazing thing. And I also just like the chance to like commission a piece of artwork, you know, like it fulfills some part of me that like I'm not otherwise doing, you know.
And you aren't tempted, like, let me do my own art on any of these?
I actually, for some of them, and for this one, I drew a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of sketches at the beginning. And I actually drew, I mean, this is some nerdy shit, but I like drew like a bunch of different like sort of characters that I sort of like imagined in the record world. Yeah, in the record. And there's like, you know, a couple different places. There's like this garden and all, you know, whatever, all this shit. And I feel like it was like kind of world buildy shit that like I wouldn't, you know, talk about on stage, but it's just helpful for me to create a world like that I want to inhabit when I'm making a record. And then I gave all those sketches to Steven. Steven's like, cool. I'll change that, you know, and just had a bunch of thoughts about. And then he actually made, I'm really excited about this, so when part 2 comes out of the Cormorant, it's going to be part 1 and 2 in like a deluxe album. When you open it up, there's like a 4-panel, like basically, you know, piece of art that's like this really beautiful, like tableau with a tree and like a bridge and all this. It's just sort of gorgeous. And that was, you know, all him basically sort of synthesizing these things that I put together.
Where'd you come up with the idea of the bull?
The bull was, well, the first record is self-titled. It's called San Fermin, and that was actually, the band was named after the record, not vice versa. Like I knew I wanted that record to be called San Fermin.
What's San Fermin?
It's the
city. And
so it's the name of it's this patron saint of the Running of the Bulls festival in Pamplona. Which I've since learned is basically like a shit fest of bros being horrible to women. But at the time was like, you know, was thinking about it more as this sort of like, you put yourself in this difficult situation of running from bulls for no reason at all. And to me, that was very like
poetic. Yeah,
it's like what music is, right? You put yourself in danger for no reason, and like you could just step off to the side, but instead you're doing this thing. And so that was kind of the idea. And then in the record, there's a bunch of references to, there's a reference to Bullfighter and some shit like that. You know, maybe I think now if if I had known what I knew about that festival now, maybe the band would be called something else, but it'd be called Ludwig-Leone or something.
Ludwig-Leone, yeah.
No, it would not. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I like it as a poetic concept. You know, you don't have to worry about you don't have to identify with the bros.
Yeah, of course on Twitter.
Fuck the bros.
Yeah, on Twitter it's like every year on like whatever July 7th, I think is when it happens. Suddenly it's like the San Fermin Twitter is just like inundated with like insane photos of, you know, people being speared up the asshole with like bulls, and it's just really.
Has anybody ever gotten mad at you? Like, why would you support this? Or have you ever received any of that?
No, but partly because I've really steered away from it. I mean, they actually that festival reached out to us a while back to have us do like a show there, and I didn't work out for various reasons, but you know, I don't know. It's like being called Mardi Gras. You know, it's like it's cool, people know it, but it's also like, I'm not like throwing beads at, you know, I like to have a little bit of distance from it. So.
Right.
But you know, it certainly served the band, you know, well, except for when people think that we're called, you know, Stand For Me when they hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next?
So we have this part 2 coming out because this album, I actually wrote it all as one piece. It's like a 60-minute album, and then
What's the concept of it?
so it follows. So the reason it's called the Cormorant is like the first track.
What's that title?
The Cormorant, and it's
What's
like
that mean?
it's a seabird. It's like a type
okay.
of. It's like actually one of those birds that looks
Big.
like it's like a snake bird. The big weird birds. And I was in
Snake bird?
That's what they call it because it has a snake-like neck.
Wow.
And when I was in Iceland, they were everywhere, and I would go for a walk every day, and I'd see these 2 birds that were always like sitting on this like weird, kind of like gallows-looking structure, and I was just like, this is really, it's really trippy, and I kept thinking about it. So I wrote this whole record, and basically, it's like it starts with this kind of like dream where like a bird comes to you and says like you're gonna die, basically. Like it's the start of the record, and then from there it sort of follows like the male voice and the female voice as they sort of start from when they're younger and they kind of grow up, and like as they grow up they get kind of more jaded, and like also the big thing that happens as they grow up is that like the sort of the concept of memories of their childhood, they get weirder, and I think the record's about memory and about how when you think back on what you were like when you were a kid, honestly a lot of that is projection. Like so much has changed.
Yeah.
Memories change over time. So the first half of the record is 8 songs, and then the second half is 8 songs, and those second half there's a lot of connections to the first half of the record. So basically, it was all going to be one thing, and then I brought it into Sony, and they're like, "Why don't you put some time between so people can spend time with the first half and the second half?" And I think it makes sense, So
You're gonna play 'em
that makes sense, and then you can re-release it as a standalone,
deluxe, right?
as a
There's lots
deluxe.
of business reasons why it was good
that's
too.
smart.
Yeah. So we're doing this second tour. We're putting out the second half of the record, and then we'll tour that a bit. Probably do some like PAC type shows, like. Because we did the tour we just did was all rock clubs, and like this, maybe we'll do some stuff where it's like we're gonna play the record beginning to end, like
a piece.
Yeah, and just to indulge that for a minute, and
you have a hometown show coming up.
Brooklyn Steel.
Yeah, Brooklyn Steel. That's
incredible.
2
dude.
weeks. Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we played it once on the last record, and it was like my favorite show we've played. So cool space. Yeah.
Man, congrats on all the success.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for doing the podcast.
Yeah.
This was really fun. This is much better than. This is a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Man, I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, Ellis.
I also want to give a
sure.
shout out to Greg Dooley.
Oh yeah, Greg Dooley's a fan, right?
The only reason I know about you guys was Greg Dooley, when your first album came out, posted a link to a session you did somewhere on his Twitter, and we're all friends with Greg, and I saw that. I was like, let me check this band out, and then
all right.
Jack Rabbit just came out, and I was like sold on you guys.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great dude, good music fan too. So if he rates you, it's like
it means something.
It does.
Yeah,
for real.
I forget what song it was, but yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. This has been really cool. It's nice to talk with a couple musicians about this stuff too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thanks, Ellis.
Thank you next
time. We'll see you next time. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/ComeToWhereI'mFrom. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.